look at how big these rugae are. More normal ones would look more like that. Actually, none of them are completely normal. But more normal ones would look like that. These are much bigger and stand up. And that's because of the mineral that's in them. And that's what gives you that kind of wrinkle appearance when you look at the external surface. And this is just it. It's the logic of this purple material that's in the gastric mucosa. So what happens when I extract calcium from bone? Well, the bone gets thinner, as you see these bone spicules here. And so you would think that the bone would be smaller, but it's not really. It's getting bigger. And this is what you call, what? What do you call this? Call it what? Is that horse's head normal size?
No.
Smaller size?
It's larger.
It's larger. So what do a lot of you folks have? Because now I'm a vet student. I'm going to be a veterinarian. I have a big head. So this is called big head disease. That's simple. It's not rocket science. It's called big head. And this is just to show you that it happens in other species as well. What is this? That's the horse here. That's an opossum. Okay? Now, what is going on here? As you extract calcium from the bone, as we said, the bone spicules get thinner. But how do you maintain the structure? Well, you can't really from actual bone matrix like you normally would. So you increase the amount of connective tissue in the area. So all of this pink stuff in between is the fibrous connective tissue. That's what makes it so big. And if I tried to cut this with a knife, I'd be able to do it a whole lot easier than I would in a normal maxillary bone in a horse. And that's because it has a lot of connective tissue in it and a relatively less amount of bone than it normally would have. And that's the same thing that happens in the opossum. So how do I get this kind of condition? There's another name for this. It's called Brand disease. And why do you think it's called that?
Brand?
Yeah. You know, in the morning you can eat cereal that contains bran.
Oh, brand.
Yeah. So, what is it about that? Somebody said phosphorus back in the day. They didn't know if they were right or not, but they are. All of these small grains contain large quantities of phosphorus. So if I give a horse a lot of phosphorus, it doesn't have to be a horse. But why do we say a horse? Because a horse is going to eat a herbivore, because he might have a lot of small grains in his diet. That's going to increase the amount of circulating phosphorus, which again is going to tie up organic calcium, ionic calcium. And that is going to result in a relative deficiency in calcium, and calcium from the standpoint of ionic calcium. So what is the parathyroid going to do? It's going to increase its function to try and get the calcium from bone, and that's what happened here. As it extracted the calcium from bone, it made the bone much thinner and weaker, so how do I try and keep it from completely collapsing? I put connective tissue there. So that's what this is. Now, can this happen in a carnivore?
Yes.
Somebody said yes. Do carnivores eat small grains like that? Cereal grains?
Not as much as horses.
Should have dog that had the rubber jaw.
Yeah, but that was due to kidney failure. Yeah, she's right. The dog had the rubber. Yeah, and that was due to kidney failure. And that was parathyroid, but that actually that was parathyroid hyperplasia from kidney failure. The same thing we talked about before. But can this happen in a carnivore? Do dogs ever eat cereal grains?
Yeah.
Do they or
If
should
they didn't, there would be no such thing as dog food. You know, commercial dog food that you found. What do you think's in that stuff? You know, they do have a lot of cereal grain in it, but they don't have that extensive amount. Plus, they supplement it with calcium. Now, there was a disease that occurred back in the 60s that affected a lot of big cats in zoos. What happened was the zoo keepers wanted to make sure that they got adequate amounts of meat to these animals. Now, if I go out and I try to buy beef on the market, and I'm buying steaks and stuff, what's it going to cost me? Is it going to be a whole lot of money or a little bit of money? A whole lot of money. But there's some stuff that's still beef and muscle that doesn't cost a whole lot.
Deer meat?
Such as
Yes, sir.
love dub, the heart. You know, they don't put that in steak. Okay, that's not what you eat. So they would buy beef hearts, and they would supplement the diets of these cats, lions and tigers, you know, with that kind of stuff. And what does meat have a whole lot of?
Iron. Okay.
Phosphorus.
Oh.
So they had similar kinds of situations occurring in these big cats, but it wasn't from cereal grains. It was from the meat. And that heart in particular has a whole lot of phosphorus in it. So that's what caused that. Now, this happened to dogs as well. How many of you know what Alpo dog food is?
Is it really McDonald's?
Back in the 60s, at the same time the cats were getting this stuff, dogs were getting it too. Because they wanted to market that product, and they said, ours is all beef. Well, that wasn't wrong, it was all beef. But a big proportion of it wasn't regular steaks, it was heart. So that they could say they was giving meat, and you know, people, my dog eats meat, he's a carnivore. But actually dogs are really not strict carnivores. They do eat some vegetable kinds of things. So anyway, that's what happened. So now he said, well, don't buy Alpo. Yeah, you buy Alpo. Now they know now, and they supplement the thing with calcium, so that it's not. Even though they tell you all beef, it is, but they do worry about the amount of beef heart, that kind of stuff they put in. Plus, they put extra calcium in to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, here's another place that you can get a lot of mineral, and this is in the lung. And the arrow is pointing to where there's the nice blue stuff. That's the mineralization in the lung. You can also get mineralization and hypercalcemia as a result of breaking down bone from tumors. This is a human skull. And what's wrong with this part of the skull as compared over here somewhere? That's thinner. Why? Is because it doesn't have as much bone there. The bone's been resorbed from that area. By the way, where does bone turn over most rapidly? In long bones or flat bones?
Long bones.
Nope, flat bones. That's why it occurs in the bones in the face, also the pelvic bones. Places like that, bone turns over faster than it does. And I didn't say it didn't turn over in long bones. It turns over faster in the flat bones, okay? So, if I have a tumor, and this tumor is producing a material that will promote lysis of bone, such as a multiple myeloma that produces interleukin-6, in addition to the immunoglobulin, you can get this kind of effect. So, that's what that is, and that's very, very typical of myeloma. And this is just showing what you can see. With these plasma cells, that's in a smear and then in tissue. And you can also see this kind of stuff in lymphoma. This is lymphoma over here. But lymphoma is not due to interleukin-6. That's not what causes the bone lysis. What causes bone lysis with lymphoma? Anybody got any idea? Which hormone causes it normally? What normally causes bone lysis like that? Parathyroid hormone. Okay. Suppose I had a tumor that secreted a parathyroid-like substance. Would it do that?
Yes.
Yes. It would. So lymphomas produce parathyroid-like hormone. So the typical, quote, lymphosarcoma. By the way, that's another thing too, that's a misnomer. Most of the time we just refer to it as lymphoma. But are they all malignant? Are they all malignant?
No.
All lymphomas are malignant?
Mm-mm. Really?
They are, yes, they are all malignant. So what is the absolute correct name to use for them? Lymphosarcoma. But you will almost never hear that. You know, people refer to them as lymphoma. But they know they're dealing with a malignant neoplasm. They always are. Now, some are much more aggressive than others. Yeah, that's true. But there is no lymphoma that is, quote, benign. It does not, all of them do. All of them do. So, lymphomas produce a parathyroid-like hormone, and myelomas, which also come from lymphocytes, really a plasma cell is a type of lymphocyte, produce interleukin-6, which causes a problem. And this is showing you that kitty cats also have interleukin-6 and myelomas, and they will also have these areas in bone. All in here is a lot lighter than it ought to be. And over here, the cortex here is much thinner than it should be, and that's as a result of interleukin-6. Now this is another thing that you see with myelomas, and you see it here in humans too. Let's go back to the animal. So this is an electrophoresis of blood, actually the plasma, from a cat, and you see this and this. So normally speaking, what's going on here in this part of the electrophoresis? What kind of proteins occupy this? Albumin. And what are the globulins come? I just told you, right there. But do the globulins normally outstrip albumin like that? No. So this tumor actually is making a lot of immunoglobulin, but it's the same kind of immunoglobulin. That's why you get what's called a monoclonal spike. Monoclonal spike. From one clonal cells producing this type of antibody is actually an abnormal antibody. And we'll talk about that when we talk about amyloid too. More of these lymphoma kind of tumors. This is a lymphoma as well, and that's a parathyroid-like hormone. This one is actually a parathyroid tumor. Here's the tumor, and this is showing it histologically. This is the normal parathyroid. That's the tumor. Look at it again so you see where it is. This is the tumor, and it's compressing the normal parathyroid here. And histologically, if I see a lot of rough endoplasmic reticulum in a cell, what does that tell me? It makes a whole lot of protein, okay? And is parathyroid hormone a protein? Yes, it is a protein. Okay, and here are the kinds of effects you can see from activated osteoclast. And these cells are actually the osteoclast. That's the thing that actually resorbs the bone. Is this the normal thickness of the cortex? No. If I had a parathyroid tumor, it could do this. It activates the osteoclast, which resorbs the bone and gives you this. What do osteoclasts normally sit in bone? The normal structure they sit in? No, not the matrix. There's a little nest that they sit in. You remember what that was called back in histology? Yeah, it's called a lacuna, but it's got a specific name.
No, it's an H.
I think what you was thinking.
Mini quiz.
House ships.
No, no mini quiz. Why? Because she just said what it is. Say it louder so the rest of you hear.
House ships.
House ships lacuna is where the osteoclast is. You just got a nickname.
Oh God.
Oh, actually, I don't think it's that bad. Because the nickname is Graham.
Okay.
One of my classmates, as a matter of fact, this is a little aside, and I do this from time to time because I know you guys not paying attention all the time. But anyway, what one of my classmates told me, they said, Graham, you can remember the most insignificant stuff in the world. You know, she's the Graham in your class. She remembers all of this little stuff that's supposed to be insignificant.
That's my life.
By the way, that classmate of mine, his name was Roscoe Moore, and he was the first African American and also Tuskegee graduate to head the veterinary section of the U.S. Public Health Service. You know, that's why when Dr. Tippett was talking about the golden class, I had folks in my class that did that kind of stuff. But anyway, back to this. So, house ships, lacuna, are where these things normally sit, and that's where they resorb the bone. And here's another kind of lymphoma. Actually, this is Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it's characterized by a specific kind of cell. Let me see if I can see one of these things in here. Yes, there's a nice one there. They look like any other lymphoma kind of neoplasm, except they have a very prominent red nucleolus. And you can see that one in that cell. Everybody see it?
No.
See that thing there? Here's the nucleus, and that thing. That's kind of pale, but and here's another one right there. There's another one right there. And what these cells are called are Reed-Sternberg cells. They were named for two pathologists that actually described them. Well, Hodgkin's lymphoma is very similar to all the other kinds of lymphomas, except it's not quite as malignant. People do survive this one, but that it does happen. So, and they secrete the parathyroid-like hormone too. More lymphomas, that's just showing a lymph node that's invaded. And this is another kind of situation you can see with a mineralization in the lung. It can actually look like bone. And what do you think they would actually call this? Looking at a lung and seeing this kind of tissue there. It's not a neoplasm.
Osteometaplasia.
Yeah. So osseous metaplasia, but what else would you put with it? This is in the lung, so what would you call it?
Plural?
Osseous metaplasia of
The lung.
the lung. Okay. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth, folks. Okay. Now let's go to a case. Here's a nice little doggy. And as we look at him, the normal range is right in the middle, and everything that's outside of that is either low or high. So, here we go with a low thing. And what is this? What's this?
Lymph nodes.
Lymphocytes. Okay, that's low. Now, if you see low lymphocytes, what do you think about? Stress. Okay? So what happened to the neutrophilia? Is the neutrophil stuff way outside the range, or outside the range?
That's wrong.
Not really. Now, this is one of the things that we didn't tell you about, and that's chronic stress. When you have chronic stress, over time, things tend to go back toward normal. The lymphocytes will remain low, but the neutrophils will return to somewhat normal level. You might see a slight increase in monocytes, or they may be high normal. But over time, chronic stress will just give you a lymphopenia. Mainly, that's what it gives you. Okay. So this dog is stressed. Now we got some other stuff here that's high. What's this? Follow it back. Follow the red back. And what is that? What's this? Calcium. Okay. And look down here. What about this one? What's that? What now? CO2? Okay. What about this one? Alkaline phosphatase. Okay. Now, if I'm doing something to extract calcium from the bone, will my blood calcium level go up? Yeah. What about alk-phos? Alkaline phosphatase. Would that go up? Yeah, it would too. Anytime you have bone that's rapidly turning over, alkaline phosphatase does increase. So, if I had a really young animal and I saw an elevation in alk-phos, or what I thought was an elevation in alk-phos, might it be a normal thing? Yeah, in a growing animal like that, it might be normal. Okay, this is not a growing animal, this is an older one. And what about this? Any idea what that's for?